Today marks day 2 of the Commission of Inquiry into the Marshalltown fire. Day 1 was spent with emergency management services people detailing their first encounters with the trapped residents in the building. 77 people died and several others were injured in the August inferno. Ziniko Mhlaba is following proceedings for us and he joins us live now. Ziniko, good morning to you. Let's look back at some of the testimony that came out yesterday. What stood out for you?
Well, for me personally, Polly, what stood out was an encounter one of the senior management officers from the emergency medical services stationed not far away from Marshalltown. The gentleman, as was on the stand, detailed how a certain woman approached him as at the very hours in the morning when they got to the scene. So you remember that the senior or the most qualified engineers and medical people, when they got to the scene, they had that responsibility of driving around, walking around the blazing fire which had engulfed that building to see possible entry points. So what he told the commissioners that they could not find any entry point that could be easily accessible at the time, so they had to use force. So in that process, or during that process of combing the entry points, a certain woman approached him and alerted him that there was a 2-year-old child who was his son who was trapped inside. So when the emergency medical services tried to rescue that child, they found that the blaze was a bit out of order, it was a bit too much and they could not access it, but also the smoke was compromising their own safety, so they had to retreat and alert the woman that unfortunately, ma'am, there's nothing we can do. We have to find other ways of getting into that building. So it's one of those chilling details which were shared by emergency services. So we are expecting the commission to continue hearing from the first respondents, which is also SAPS. So we are expecting SAPS maybe later in the day to come through, but also present their own reports as to what is it that they found on the scene when they arrived. So we'll start by continuing with members of emergency management services so that they take us through the details. So one of the things that came out only was the issue of not having emergency management tools readily available for residents, and obviously that was one of the challenges. So emergency services had to find other ways, like use force, because even exit points were locked with steel gates. So it was very, very difficult. And obviously one of the details that came out was that the fire started the first and second floor. So it became very difficult for people who were staying at upper floors, such as the third and fourth floor, to come down and run for their safety. So some of them reverted had to jump down from the fourth and the third floor to the ground, and that's what got several people injured. So those are some of the things which were shared by those officials who took to the stand yesterday. But I can tell you right now that the lead prosecutor, Advocate Semenya SC, has been very, very patient in terms of allowing them to express themselves, to share as much information as possible as they are presenting reports. So what will be happening is the continuation of confirming those reports which emergency services compiled on behalf of the city of Johannesburg, but also then the commission will have to verify if indeed the details diarized in those reports are actually a true reflection of the event. And as I said earlier on, that later on SAPS, the South African Police Service, is one of the first respondents on the scene, will also come and take to the stand and give us what is it that they found and maybe see if there are any similarities between the two reports.
Ziniko Mhlaba live for us there at that Commission of Inquiry looking into that fire in Marshalltown. Thank you very much for the time.